Coming up in the news, business owners urged to cooperate with the 2-week VAT holiday. A progress report tonight, 1 year after Dorian. And crime, a big concern in Abaco. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, Northern Edition.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening. I'm Natalia Hall. Thank you so much for tuning in. Topping the news tonight, the government taking steps to ease the burden on parents and guardians as they prepare for their children to go back to the classroom. The back-to-school value-added tax holiday began earlier this week and will run for a period of 2 weeks. Now, while imported items are not included in the VAT holiday, there are a wide range of items that are under the order. In this report, the finance minister is asking store owners to simply follow the law. The back-to-school value-added tax holiday was implemented to assist parents with back-to-school shopping, school supplies, school uniforms, snacks, backpacks, digital learning tools such as computers and tablets are all VAT-free, but there have been some reports that local stores are not applying that benefit to consumers. While Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honorable K. Peter Turnquist, says no store should be adding VAT onto the exempted items.
As you would know, the Minister would have announced in his press conference that we're going to have face-to-face instruction here in Grand Bahama on the 5th of October. Those store owners are to discontinue charging VAT on those items.
However, he says they are not in a position to force stores to observe the VAT holiday.
This is where the consumer has to participate. If there is a store that is charging value-added tax, then I would encourage consumers to find an alternative supply for their goods, because they should not. Those businesses should not be charging value-added tax. The provision and the order is in place to ensure that the retailer, the wholesaler, is compensated for any value-added tax that they may have incurred, and they are to pass that savings on to the consumer.
But he says every business owner should follow the law.
We expect that if there's any business that is not passing on that benefit, that they're to immediately cease and desist, follow the rules, and if there's any question, I encourage them to contact the Department of Inland Revenue, who can give them guidance on how they are to proceed.
The finance minister is encouraging Bahamians to use this time to shop at home. Now, the VAT tax holiday began on Monday, August 31st, and will end on September 20th. This week marks 1 year since Hurricane Dorian made its deadly assault on the northern Bahamas, leaving behind $3.4 billion in losses and damage. Lives were lost, businesses and homes destroyed. Tonight, Jamila Mizik gets a progress report from the Minister for Disaster Preparedness.
The Honorable Iram Lewis was appointed Minister for Disaster Preparedness Management and Reconstruction on September 23, 2019, shortly after Hurricane Dorian devastated Grand Bahama and the Abacos. And nearly 1 year later, he says he's grateful that they're now experiencing the calm after the storm. Minister Lewis reflecting on the early stages of recovery efforts to where they're at now.
One of the critical things that we had to deal with immediately was the security and safety of our people, make sure that person was safe. They had food, they had water, and they had shelter. And then, of course, there was a need to have access to basic infrastructure, airport, harbor, roadways cleared. Policy was not in place at that time. The DRA didn't exist at that time, but moving forward, the DRA has the ability now to instantly engage contractors, instantly engage emergency response team to make sure that systems are a go. We don't have all the layers that we would have be faced with initially. We don't have those layers anymore.
He says 1 year later, he's confident that they have more capacity to successfully carry out the initial recovery process.
We do have a larger workforce. We have a more educated workforce and a workforce that has the necessary equipment to clear our roadways, to clear our harbors, to manage our debris. And one of the things that I'm proud of is that, and the managing director of the DRA also alluded to this, was that we got quotes from overseas debris management companies collection in the north of $100 million. That's a lot of money. Not to say it is not worth that, but that's a lot of money. We were able to engage local contractors, Bahamian contractors, Bahamian workers. And to date, we are south of $30 million.
He says the good thing is that money is in circulation in the Bahamas.
I've seen a lot of the contractors flip that money by buying more equipment, more machinery, engaging more local workers. The workforce has now been trained. I see more grab trucks, excavators on the road, front-end loaders on the road, and of course, the site where we dispose of the debris, they're properly laid out, debris separated, and of course, the skill is now being transferred. Even if they have to get skills training from overseas, we now have local skills to be able to collect debris and to be able to manage it.
The minister is encouraging Bahamians to remain hopeful and to continue to work together as a community.
The government cannot do it alone. The community cannot do it alone. We have foreign NGOs, we have local NGOs, and so we have to hold each other's hand, be accountable, and try to build a better Bahamas together. Instead of complaining and criticizing, let's figure out ways that we can come up with positive solutions to transform our country and to make it strong, and of course to look beyond the colors, look beyond the polarization. We are one people, we have one fight. COVID-19 is attacking everybody, every party. Dorian affected everyone. So we have to look at it as all of us is in this together. So instead of nitpicking and finger pointing and criticizing consistently, let us figure out ways that we can make it better.
Jamila Mizik, ZNS Network News.
Thanks, Jamila. Well, over in Abaco, 1 year after Dorian, there's a concern that there's been an increase in crime on that northern island. Megan Shepherd talks to a pastor and community leader who says more must be done to keep Abaco safe.
Resident of Abaco, Pastor Silbert Mills, calling for more law enforcement presence on the island. Since the passage of Hurricane Dorian, homes and businesses were destroyed. And with a slowed economy and many persons in need, Mills says a level of frustration has set in for many. And unfortunately, some persons have turned to crime as a means of survival.
I'm seeing a lot of petty crimes. We need to stop that. Stealing a generator, I think, is a petty crime. I was in a particular store, and a businessman from Marsh Harbor was sharing with his friend a video that he saw on his security where someone had that night taken all of the ice and water shield that he had to repair his roof. And he looked at his colleague. They both were white. He looked at his colleague, and he said, in amazement, and the man doing the stealing is white. He was shocked that one of his own would have stolen from him. So this stealing has no color, it has no race. People are have just become petty thefts in order to try and just make it.
Mills says he believes that a lack of visible law enforcement officers gives the impression that the island is open to the criminal element.
We need to do better with our enforcement. I suggested back in February that there ought to be a wider police presence, that you ought to put a substation in Mid-Dundas Town, get a container, put it at Ocean View Park. Police officers rotate all night long. Put a police station in Murphytown. We have to see the visibility of police officers. So when we see these traffic moving at night, let's make some example. Let's find what's going on. You're not supposed to be out after a certain hour, because lots of the stealing taking place after dark.
He explains that he conducted a 2-week experiment on the island, which brought him to this conclusion.
We need greater police presence. I went through this town for 2 weeks. Dundas, Murphy, Marsh Harbor, 2 weeks, and I have not seen one police officer in 2 weeks. Morning, noon, and before the curfew ended. And I didn't see one officer for 2 solid weeks. That's telling people, hey, it's open season. If we see a better visibility of police or law enforcement, somebody in Cameo, will think twice.
Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
Now, we spoke with a member of parliament for North Abaco regarding these concerns. He says the government is working diligently to arrest this issue. Megan Shepard has his response.
Member of Parliament for North Abaco, the Honourable Darren Henfield, notes that some level of crime has become an issue on the island since the passing of Hurricane Dorian. He says that the monster Category 5 hurricane not only destroyed businesses and communities, but also the homes of police and defense force officers. He says the issue of finding proper accommodation is currently being addressed.
One of the challenges that the police found following Dorian was places to live. Of course, you know, most of our infrastructure was destroyed, and that meant that the police didn't have a normal place of abode anymore, and so it was very difficult. Right now, they're in the process of acquiring, with the help of the people who own Treasure Key, some 6 to 12 apartments where we can house police officers, and they can find more regularity in the way that they operate in Abaco. It was also very challenging to find places of accommodation on the Keys. Elbow Key, Manawar Key, of course, all greatly disrupted by Dorian.
He adds that necessary equipment was also destroyed during the storm, and that the international community has committed to providing assistance.
The United States of America is going to help us in procuring some more materiel for the police and defense force as we seek to recover. You know, we lost a lot of equipment in the hurricane. In Grand Bahama alone, so many vehicles were destroyed, and that happened in Abaco as well. And the police and the defense force needs material and to be able to operate. The commissioner has a good strategic plan, I believe. On Tuesday, whilst we were in Abaco, Assistant Commissioner Greenslade was there, holding meetings with local leaders, local community leaders, and reassuring them that we are aware of this problem and that we are going to do all we can to fix it.
Minister Henfield says that the government of the Bahamas will not allow the island to fall into the hands of criminals.
We are a law-abiding country, and Abaco will have law and order so that people can rebuild their lives, and our commerce and communities can go on in a way that we've become accustomed to before Dorian.
Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
Now also from Abaco, Paracelsus Anthony Melis appeared before Magistrate Ancilla Evans this week and pled guilty to all firearm and drug charges. Among the charges, possession of an unlicensed firearm or $1,000 or 12 months in prison, possession of an unlicensed firearm, a .38 revolver, $2,000 or 12 months imprisonment, possession of an unlicensed rifle, $1,000 or 12 months in prison, possession of an unlicensed shotgun or $1,500 or 12 months imprisonment, possession of ammunition, $1,000 or 12 months in prison, possession of ammunition, $1,000 or 12 months imprisonment. On the charge of cultivation of dangerous drugs, $3,000 or 12 months in prison. Possession of dangerous drugs with intent to supply, $3,000 or 12 months in prison. That is a grand total of $15,500 in fines.
In Sunday school, I was taught this prayer that Christ has no hand but our hands to do his work today. He has no feet but our feet to lead men in his way. He has no help but our help to lead men to his side. He has no tongue but our tongues to tell men how he died. We are living in a time of when many persons are plunged in hopelessness, and we have many disciples of hopelessness and despair, causing many persons to panic. Even Christians today are disciples of hopelessness and despair. People are hurting, especially mentally, psychologically. Some people have lost hope or losing hope in our nation and in the world at large. In the midst of all this, we need disciples of hope. There's a poem that we learned in school about Humpty Dumpty who sat on a wall, and Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men could not put old brother Humpty Dumpty back together again. Political and military might will not do. We need to make ourselves available to be God's channels of grace, God's amazing grace. We must not squander this opportunity to be God's channels of grace that has been presented us in this war against this unseen enemy. Let us be God's channels of grace, amazing grace, to invest our time and our availability in making lives whole once again wherever there is a deficit.
Coming up, we have the major story as they continue to rebuild.